Well, good morning. All right. I always gauge an audience by their good morning back to me. Hey, it's Friday. How bad can this be, right? You're not at work. That's some good news. There's some bad news that follows. You're not at work. That means there's a leaderless ship being sailed right now. Today we're going to talk about my 25 to 30 years of nuggets that I've gleaned along the way, and the last 11 years that I've been trying to apply them to healthcare. I'd like to start a conversation. I'd like to have a little fun. Is it all right to have a little fun on a Friday? And these meetings can be a little, not so fun. So being that I worked 20 years, almost 2 decades at the Walt Disney Company in Orlando and in Paris, even we got caught in that non-fun mode. So I want to have a little fun. What I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to speak directly to you as the captain of your ship. Okay? How many of you actually do over 25 performance reviews in the year? Okay? How many of you do 10? Okay? And how many of you only do 1? All right. And so the rest of you, quite frankly, maybe manage a team or a process, but maybe even an individual contributor. But still you have a circle of influence. I think that's what some of the previous speakers were saying. It's an incredible circle of influence. And legendary leaders is not necessarily about your role and your title. Now, you had 2 outstanding founders of this organization. Okay, Mr. Kaiser and Dr. Garfield. They were legendary, and you're delivering on their promise of affordable, high-quality health care for the entire community. You are leading the nation, but like the Walt Disney Company and Southwest Airlines and Ritz-Carlton and Starbucks Coffee, anytime you stumble, they will be looking. And they will put you in the press. Okay? I actually had a slide for Southwest Airlines in my presentation this morning, and I was begged by my curriculum developer to take it out. Are you crazy? They're going to laugh you out of the room. I said, you know what? I'm going to put it back in. And on the break, I put it back in. And I think you'll see why. Because there's 350 ships in this room here. We're all sailing towards this compass called Vision 2020, about a mission of high-quality, affordable health care. We sail by the same compass. The question is what path are you on, individually? And how well are you connecting the dots for you and your team members? I've been working on and off for the last 2 years, not only in some of those illustrious healthcare organizations that Caesar talked about, but I've been working in very small physicians' offices, hospice, long-term care. And more importantly, I've been working in one of your own hospitals down in Santa Clara. And I'm not talking just about the C-suite. I'm talking about these folks, housekeepers. Or I'm sorry, their name bags used to say EVS. And all the patients used to call them Eves. Isn't it amazing that everybody who cleans my room is named Eves? I don't have my glasses on because I'm in bed, but it's amazing to me. So one of the things that we talked about is what's your role in the healing experience as a housekeeper? Now, the hardest thing, and then let me do a couple disclaimers. I know you personally are not running a medical center. You're not running a sterilized processing unit. Maybe you used to. Maybe you were a nurse. How many previous or current clinicians do we have in the room here? MD, RN, provider, great. Okay, it's good to know. A little intimidating, but it's good to know. Watch my P's and Q's. How many physicians do we have in the room, just out of curiosity? Excellent. Let's talk about them. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah. Just scared to raise your hand. Oh, there we go. All right. Okay. We've got our token physician. Good, good. No, that's good because there is a captain of the ship who's representing many tribes. And I'm going to use a lot of metaphors, sailing metaphors, captain metaphors, tribal metaphors, because we are made up of many tribes. I like the fact that Greg talked about the diversity in the room. We do have a lot of diversity. You come from different tribes. Your families are coming from different traditions, different heritages, how you treat each other. Some of them dysfunctional, like mine, 6 brothers and sisters in upstate Western New York with 2 cats and a dog and a grandmother who lived with us because my grandfather died young. And my first job was in the produce department of a famous supermarket called Wegmans. It's in the back east supermarket chain. And I'll never forget when the phone rang in the produce department as I'm bagging lettuce. And it was for somebody else who was on the other side of the store. And I screamed across the store, and I said, Jimmy, telephone! And just then the general manager, who I've never met before, comes swooping over to me and says, what are you doing? We're trying to create a shopping experience. And I say, well, I went through about 90 minutes of new employee orientation. That's all it was there. And I learned the golden rule. And guys, the golden rule is broken. And I'm sorry, I don't know if you preach that in your department. It's a great place to get the common ground, but it's never going to get the common practice. The reason with the golden rule is broken is because I'm not you. You didn't grow up in my house of Protestant religious people who are Italian, German background. Okay? You didn't go to my high school. I don't know what you're going through as a new team member, going through new leader orientation or new employee orientation. Okay? I don't know what you're going through for your hip replacement. I never had one. So how am I going to do unto others as they'd like done unto me? I need to do unto others as they'd like done unto themselves. So we need to be practicing the platinum rule now. So legendary leaders is not about command and control. It's about having a conversation, one-on-one. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Hopefully, I hope you can crack a beer, sit at my kitchen table, and just have a conversation with me. And hopefully we can connect the dots. Connect the dots of why you got into healthcare to begin with. For you, like me, after 9/11, I chose a new calling. My mom was a nurse for 40 years at a state-run hospital institution. She used to come home and sit by the fireplace and complain about her workplace. You know, they say nurses love their job, but they hate their job tasks. Okay? She couldn't fire the bad people. She couldn't promote the good people. And she was constantly constrained by the bureaucracy and rhetoric of healthcare. Now, every day I open up the newspaper, I cringe for you. But this is my calling. I wanted to follow, after my career at Disney, how can I help make healthcare? Because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm going to need you someday. Now, I'm in Orlando now, but you should be there soon, right? Right? All right, so this is what I'm talking about. My calling is to connect those who don't necessarily know they're on the care team. Your employees at corporate or in one of these ancillary campuses here in downtown don't necessarily know they're part of the care team. Oh, yeah, they order equipment. Oh, yeah, they work in accounting or finance. Oh, yeah, they're ex-nurses trying to create new patient services that are evidence-based and world-class, and we're trying to make it Kaiserized, you know? But the question is, oh, yeah, I've heard all your terms over the last year. All right, Kaiserized, Kaiser speak. The question is what does it look like locally? You've got this global approach that I think is brilliant. You've got a diagram that I can really look at and say, I get that. It's a picture, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. The question is, what does it look like, sound like, and feel like in your department? How does your receptionist answer the phone? Now, I'm training the medical center at Santa Clara how to answer the phone. It's not Santa Clara. It's not KPSC. Like a lot of hospitals. It's good morning. Thank you for choosing. Kaiser Permanente Santa Clara, this is Jody. How may I help you? Why? Even though we're a membership, even though this is prepaid health care, not everybody is coming in as a member. And even the members have a choice, don't they? Okay. So how do we connect the dots? What I love about this photograph, and a photograph is 1,000 words, is here's an ICU patient that finally gotten to a place where she can barely whisper a word because she's got a trach. She's got tubes coming out all of her. And I was rounding with the housekeeping manager, the gal, African-American gal here in the scrubs. And I said, who's that? And she says, oh, that's one of our housekeepers, Ivy. And I said, what is she doing? She says, I don't know. She's off today. I said, well, she's in uniform. She's in name tag. What is she doing here? So the family member was outside, and I asked for permission to take the photograph. And she said, sure. I said, I'm going to use it for internal training here at Kaiser Permanente. I said, that really looks like your mom or your sister is really enjoying, oh, yeah, we love her. She looks forward to every time she comes into the room to clean the room. Oh, yeah, she can't talk, but Ivy's the one who talks to her. And she makes her day. And today she's going to she's going to be discharged to a long-term care facility, and she came in on her day off to say goodbye. I'm like, wow. Guess where this photograph is right now? It's on the CEO's desk. Because Chris Boyd, the general manager of that hospital system, says that's what we need to achieve in patient care. How do we localize it? How do I then share that photograph with 240 other housekeepers and say that's the new Santa Clara way? That's how we're going to localize this Vision 2020. But more importantly, what's your role as the leader to make that business as usual and not a random act of kindness? I don't know why this popped in my head, but I'm going to go with it. I'm working with the Children's Hospital 10 years ago, one of my first clients in Midwest America. And we're doing this training very much like this. And a year later, I come back. I'm with a bunch of nurses, and a nurse comes up to me from the neonatal NICU. There you go. Neonatal intensive care unit. And she says, Jake, I really was inspired by your speech last year. And she goes, I need to tell you a story. She says, I make doll clothing for my daughter's dolls. And I work on the break, and sometimes I keep it in the car. Well, as you know, we sometimes lose a baby. Their baby's born premature in the neonatal intensive care unit. And we really have no fond farewell. We have no way of saying goodbye to the baby and presenting. Sometimes the family wants to spend time with the baby, hold the baby, even though the baby is lifeless. And sometimes the baby is the size of your palm. She says, one day, hey, long time no see. One day, we lost the baby. I went down to my car. I got a little blanket that I had made. I got some little doll clothing, and I dressed this little girl, baby, who was lifeless, in this outfit, and I presented it to the family. Well, the family wrote a wonderful letter to my CEO. CEO handed it to the chief nursing officer, who wrote a very nice comment, who then handed it to my director, who wrote a very nice comment. And by the time I got the letter, my manager came up to me and said, don't ever do that again. If you can't assure me that you can do that for every dead baby in our facility, then I don't want you doing it for one. Remember kindergarten when you chewed gum? Remember when, if you got enough gum for everybody? There's great acts of kindness for all your different customers going on right now in your department. That's not the question. The question is, do you know what they are? Are you capturing those on-the-spot recognition opportunities? Not just those crucial conversations. Those are important. But are you capturing those and saying, why can't we do that for every customer in accounting, every customer out in the medical centers, every customer that we talk to, email, and so on every day? And that's what I'm going to be talking about, okay? Those are some of the key components. Let me start off with, I tell a lot of stories. I apologize ahead of time. Let me take you into the medical field for a moment because I think stories are very powerful. And then I'll bring you back to corporate. My wife lost her best friend 10 years ago, her grandmother, to breast cancer. That's the bad news. 87 years old, lived a beautiful life, but it was a tumultuous time. And it really, if you have anybody struggled with any kind of cancer, it took the spirit out of her. My wife, not giving you too much information. Can we turn off the video camera? No, I'm just kidding. She has cysts in her breast, so I always say, she died of breast cancer. After the emotion of the funeral went down, I said, you might want to get that checked. Let's go get a mammogram. She was like, all right. So my wife is very task-oriented, and she squeezed it in just before Thanksgiving, went and got the mammogram, came back, and I said, hey, how was it? What did they find? She goes, oh, it was uneventful, sort of like I say about most airline flights. And I said, come on, I'm a secret shopper in healthcare. I live in the trenches of the emergency department. What was it like? She goes, all right. So parking was easy access. The appointment was not so great, but I finally got in. There were no fingerprints on the glass as I opened up the door. I was greeted by the receptionist, but then I had to wait 45 minutes until I finally got the exam. But she had towel warmers in the exam room, and it was a female physician, so I really liked that, blah, 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 blah. Ultimately, I said, okay, thank you for that secret shopper report. What did they find? She goes, I'm not sure. We're supposed to find out in a day or two. Day or two? It's 2 days before Thanksgiving. She says, yeah, they're supposed to call. And sure enough, the day before Thanksgiving, we received a phone call from the receptionist at the mammography radiology department, and it went something like this. Oh, yeah, hi, Mrs. Poore. Yeah, this is the x-ray department or the mammogram department clinic. I need to schedule you for another exam. I have Tuesday before Christmas open, 4, 5, or 6 o'clock. Which would you prefer? Oh, my gosh. Is there something wrong? Is that why I have to come back? Ma'am, for confidentiality reasons, I'm not allowed to say anything. Did you want the 4 o'clock or the 5 o'clock? I've got to make 10 more calls before I go home. And she's like, well, I want to speak with the physician. This is ridiculous. It's Thanksgiving. She's on vacation. Did you want the appointment or not? She said, fine, I'll take the 4 o'clock. The next day, when you live in Orlando and you used to work for Disney, people think you have free tickets. So relatives show up all the time out of the woodwork. We're cooking dinner for like 22 people that Thanksgiving, and helping my wife in the kitchen, I caught her crying in between courses. What was she crying about? Yeah, the unknown. She's writing her epitaph right along Grandma. I'll also pick out a plot. Right? Now, my wife was, at that time, 128 pounds. When we walked in that physician's office, nearly 30 days later, she lost 12 pounds of worry. She had big dark circles in her eyes. She hadn't slept in weeks. And she had a grip on my hand like you can't believe. And I can't help it. Even when we go out to dinner, I'm a secret shopper. I live in the trenches. I do this speaking thing 2% of my time. So I'm on record. So we're walking in. The physician is sitting with, or the whatever you call the clinician, who the radiology tech is sitting with the receptionist, sees my wife, recognizes her by facial recognition, stands up from behind the desk and says, "Oh, Mrs. Poore." Comes out from behind the desk to extend her hand to greet my wife. And I'm thinking, this is world-class service. And she gets about 10 feet from my wife with her hand out, and she says, "Oh, thanks for coming back. We had some fuzzy images." And I'm like, fuzzy images, in total relief, right? I turned to my wife. She stopped in shock. She thought for a moment, and she spun on her heels, and she walked out. I'm sitting there with no one's hand in my hand. I said, "I'm going with her." And I got into the car, and I said, "Where to?" And she says, "Take me to my office." What you don't know about my wife, she's an executive at the Walt Disney Company International Marketing Division. And she went up to her desk, 6th floor of the administration building in Orlando. She signed on her computer. She typed an email titled, "Where Not to Get a Mammogram in Orlando." She wrote out the entire story of not only what they said, not only what they did, but how it made her feel. And when she hit send, 66,422 fellow cast members of the Walt Disney Company, including the legal and the benefits department, who chooses providers in Orlando, were copied on the email. Now, I don't know the power of that one email, but what do you think? You never know. You know, they say good news travels fast, bad news travels. And now they have Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and MySpace. So my point to this is this. When you're building your individual development plan and you're balancing results, how you get those results are very important. The closer you are to the patient experience, and you nurses and doctors in here, you get it. You've seen them come in unconscious and bloody and broken. And you've seen them walk out whole, or at least a little bit more whole. And you contributed. You get great feelings of results. But what about the rest of us? I don't know what a STEMI is. I don't even know what a NICU is or a PICU is. I know what a PDQ XYZ is, TTFN. How do I get the results to make us grow as an organization? Okay? It's going to take a lot of love, as Greg says, right? We can't just have the green color money. That's important. That helps us, enables us to grow. But number one reason we get repeat business, and I'm talking about members who re-sign up, or I'm talking about employers who sign up for our plan to provide their employees. The number one reason patients say they go back to an organization is because they were treated like the color gold. And if you know anything about brass or gold, it's got to be polished. You can't just get them in the door and say, "We got ya," because now they got choices. Okay? And unlikely sources of competition, I hear. The number one reason they say they intend to return or intend to refer is not because of your equipment. It's not because of your clinical care, because they didn't go to medical school or nursing school. It's because of how they were treated by these people. And the reason I colored that blue is because they have to be true blue dedicated employees who understand the difference between their job tasks of drawing blood or doing accounting reports or answering the phone and their role in providing high-quality, affordable health care. That's different. We got to be connected to something bigger. Because if I'm just working for job tasks, then every Sunday I'm just going to open up the paper and look who's going to pay me a little bit more or a little bit closer to my house. What keeps me at Kaiser? What keeps you at Kaiser? Do people know? Because ultimately it comes down to this. The number one reason you left your last job wasn't money. Oh, you may say it was in your exit interview so nobody calls you again. It may be convenience. It may be because your spouse moved on the other side of the bay. But the number one reason most people leave their last organization is because of a lackluster relationship with these people. You. And the reason I color that maroon is because in the olden days, the only people who wear purple silks We're kings and queens. That is the color of nobility. You have, whether you're an independent contributor or direct reports of 100, you have a circle of influence. And the reason I color that maroon, and the reason I say maroon and not purple, is because if you're in your office with your door locked, cranking out budgets for the big boss, you're leaving your people marooned. If you're not out rounding on the team members to find out how they're doing those random acts of kindness, or seeing from your direct contacts, your customers within Kaiser who you hand off reports to or get information from, then you're leaving your team marooned because they're just cranking out job tasks. So your job today, and what we're going to spend the rest of the time on, is not to take care of the patient. It's not to take care of our members. It's not even to take care of the people who you call your customers. Your job as a leader is right here, is to build an environment where your people understand how to create exceptional customer experiences. Or at least we're going to identify our graffiti. You know, that language you hear down the hall like, it's not my patient, it's not my job, that's not my department, it's not my report, glad I don't work down there, right? That's graffiti. Or what about your office? If I were to put a turnstile in your office doorway and I was going to charge people to come see you $10, would you wear your name tag? Would you dress differently? Would you answer the phone differently? You need to treat your employees exactly how we expect our nurses and doctors and housekeepers and food and admissions people to treat our members and patients and their family members. That's where our disconnect is here at corporate. We don't necessarily see the connection to hands-on body. Your job as a leader is to build that environment where your employees understand that. Okay? So here's some of the keys, and if you pull out in your packet, I actually have some handouts for you. Not all of them are in there, and quite frankly, I may not use all of them just because of time. Okay? Here are some leadership keys from Jake Poore. This is not evidence-based, but this is what I've gleaned over all the reading and all the work that I've done, and specifically in healthcare. And some I've already covered. Number one, and if you notice down in the right-hand corner, I will give you the page number. Why I do that, I don't know, because you in the back are looking through 4,000 heads. You can't see the corner. So I'll just say we're on page 3. Okay? So some of the keys to, you've got to connect employees to their role versus their job tasks. You've got to communicate, you specifically have got to communicate and model an explicit expectation of what we're talking about. You're not going to say, listen, I need you to answer the phone quicker. How many rings are you talking about? You're not going to be nicer, more compassionate, more accurate. Be specific. What's that great phrase from Stephen Covey? He says, my old boss, I worked at Franklin Covey for a couple years as a hiatus from my Disney career. And he said, unexpressed expectations can lead to unexpected resentments. Now think about that. Your first roommate, guy, girl, girlfriend, roommate from college, whatever. Whatever they did, they ate something in the fridge, they don't do their dishes, they don't pick up their laundry, or they just use something of yours, and you go, hey, what are you doing? What, this my stuff, man? Don't eat my stuff, don't drink my stuff, don't touch my stuff, and clean up your garbage. Well, wait a minute. When I moved in here, you didn't tell me that. I went through new roommate orientation. You didn't give me that. I'm applying the golden rule here. I'm doing unto you as I did back in my own house. I never did the dishes. I never did the ironing. I never did the laundry. Can you do that for me? I'm not your mother. And you get in this argument, right? Same at work. If you do not, after new employee orientation, after new leader orientation, to say, welcome, Greg, welcome to my department. Thank you for joining Kaiser Permanente in the finance department. Now let me tell you about what you heard over the last 3 days and how we localize it. Here's what the global Kaiser approach looks like, sounds like, and feels like in our department. Here are my expectations for you. Just because you see my office on at 7 o'clock doesn't mean you need to stay till 7:02. I go to lunch, I don't go to lunch. You can go to lunch with me, you don't go to lunch. I have an open door policy or I don't. Whatever. Unexpressed expectations can lead to possible resentments, especially on the day they decide to leave. And you say, why are you leaving? Oh, because you're a workaholic and you expect us to be workaholics. Well, wait a minute. I didn't expect you to. Now we have this unexpressed expectation. So make sure you express it and be very specific. Treat employees exactly like our customers, our members. And that's why I use customers, because they're not only members, they're other departments. They're family members. Okay? Build support systems and processes. Listen, one thing I do know about Kaiser is you're really good at this part, okay? But let me start with recognition first. And I'm not talking about just end of the year's individual development plans, okay, and accountability metrics and on-the-spot recognition programs. That's important. What I'm talking about is how you conduct your meetings. One of the things I'll just give you as feedback of being in a lot of Kaiser meetings is you have a lot of Kaiser speak. And that's great if you've been here a while, and it really helps if you worked in the military healthcare system before you came to Kaiser, because there's a lot of speak, there's a lot of acronyms. But I'll remind you of my basketball coach who pulled me out of the game. I was a starter in high school basketball. He pulled me out of the game after warm-up, and he says, I said, Coach, what gives? I'm your starting guard. He goes, not tonight, you're not. I'll put you in later. I said, why? He goes, you were practicing shots during warm-up that you would never take in the game. Practice shots in your warm-up behind the scenes that you expect caregivers to practice on stage with caring people, okay? So, especially the hands that went up in this room, all the acronyms that we use, no, I do like the previous speakers. They at least wrote the acronyms in parentheses. But we have our shorthand, and in the code blue, I want you to use it to save my life. But then somebody needs to go to the family member and explain what it is. And the key to that, by the way, is recognition first. Start your meetings, all meetings, on celebrations. Does anybody have anything you want to celebrate this morning before we start off? We got a lot of business to cover, but personal or professional? Anybody have anything? Oh, yeah, my daughter had a baby. Oh, congratulations. I just got my nursing degree, management degree. Oh, congratulations. Great. And then we get to work. Okay? We have a lot of time to get through work, but sometimes celebrations get deferred to the next day. And then end every meeting, whether it's a one-on-one or a staff meeting, with appreciation. Guys, really appreciate your time. We know you've been working hard, blah, blah, blah. That's it. Keep that sandwich alive. We'll get into more of that in a moment. So the one who tells a story rules the world. I'm from upstate New York originally, for 19 years of my life anyway. Big Indian, Native American country, a lot of folklore up there. And one of the things I heard one time about the Hopi Indians, or not from that area, but I love this, is why would Native Americans, nomads, if you will, who travel from land to land in the Midwest of America, put so much emphasis on the storyteller of the village? What is storytelling so powerful for those folks back in those days? This is where you can actually give me some feedback. Why is storytelling so important? It gives our history. They didn't necessarily have the written word. Even if you dwelled in a cave and you moved away, those writings are still on the wall. So it's the way, guys, here's how we fight. Here's how we strike camp. Here's how we treat each other. Here's a list of our enemies. Here's how we birth babies. Here's our heritage and our history and our traditions, so we don't repeat those same mistakes. So storytelling is very powerful. So the question is, what is your story? I know what the Kaiser story is. I know what the vision for our chief is. But you run your own tribe, okay? You may run a clinical tribe, a non-clinical tribe, an accounting tribe. You may have your own way depending on where you came from. What's your way? And does it connect with the mission, vision, values of this organization? Otherwise, we got incongruency. All right? More importantly, my father would say, from the Poore tribe, yeah, bummer of a last name, I know. But you know true love is when a girl and the chief financial officer who works for the chief financial officer at Bausch & Lomb falls in love with you and actually says, I'm going to take your name. A finance person who's going to take my last name. I'm like, you got to wonder if that's really a smart girl after all. Ed Poore, director and producer for CBS in upstate New York, would say, when he taught me about leadership, Jake, don't forget, if you're not telling your story, others are going to be telling it for you. Guys, right now, let me warn you of something. People are talking about you. Where is she? Where is she? Down at the Marriott. Well, it must be nice to get all that free food. Right? Well, what are they doing? They're doing a star leadership program. Star? Well, yeah, he's a star, all right. I got a star for him. Right? Well, what are they talking about there? Well, they're bringing us some guy from ex-Disney guy. Oh, what are they going to make us wear? Mouse ears now? Right? They're going to bring in Mickey Mouse, try to tell us how to run our department. Customer service, good. He could use it. Guys, if you don't leave this meeting, not anything I say, I have no ego into this game at all. I'm going to get on a plane, I'm going to fly back home, and I'm going on vacation for a couple weeks. So there's the only thing that's keeping me from that is you. Okay, I worked hard for it, darn it. But the point of the matter I'm trying to get to is if the one who tells the story rules the world, and these people are out there leaderless right now, figuring out what your personal story is and what your department and how it fits in this Vision 2020, we're either on the path or we're not on the path. And if you don't give them the specific pathway, they'll figure it out on their own, because that's what we do. Anytime we build a new hospital, we don't put in sidewalks, we put in grass, and we wait for people to tell us where to build the sidewalks. They will tell us the shortest pathway to get there. So guys, I'm imploring you to tell your own story. Now, who's a good storyteller? The best storyteller is when you capture these people in action, okay? Now, here's a great example that I pulled off your own website. Here's a video of an EVS employee, okay, Edie Boyd. She's from Woodland Hills Medical Center. What a fantastic video. Now, let me ask you a question. Any housekeeper, any environmental services employee, give me their job task. If I were to look at their job description, what do housekeepers do in medical centers? Give me some tasks. They clean. How kind of clean? What kind of clean? What? They make beds. They mop. They scrub. Clean toilets, change the laundry, right? And they were supposed to be invisible until needed in years past. And now they're on the safety and quality team because of C. difficile and MRSA and staff. Oh, by the way, here's a side note. I love the fact that your speakers were calling all of our employees team members. Okay? Everybody should be a care team member because everybody's on the care team. Most organizations I work in, they're called staff. I know it's spelled differently, but isn't that an infection? Wouldn't we want to call them a care team member? Okay? I know you're at corporate, miles away from all medical centers, but you still are a care team member. Okay? That's not the question. The question is what's your role on that care team. Watch this video. It's very short. And tell me if she understands the difference between her job tasks at the front entrance of Woodland Hills Hospital and her role in the healing experience. Who are her customers? How do you know she understands the mission and the vision and the values of Kaiser Permanente?
My name is Edie Boyd.
Morning.
And I work in Kaiser for 15 years. And this is the best place I ever work in my life.
This is my space parking. They don't charge me that much.
Good morning, how are you?
Come on in.
Yeah, welcome. How you doing this morning?
How many people would you say hello to in the morning, every morning?
Sometimes maybe 1,000.
And I like to whistle, and I think life is very short, and we gotta enjoy it every single minute.
Edie's special. She gets a lot of people because she's out front. So she's one of our first seen. And they like her smile and they sing. And when she was out sick for a little while, the members actually called the department and they said, "Where is Edie? We miss her."
My job is very important to me. If not patient coming, I don't have a job. Patience is number one for me. I think for every employee, it gotta be number one.
Is she? She making a difference? Tell me some of the things she did besides mop, dust, clean, and infection control. She greeted. Be specific. How did she greet? Give me some attributes. Smiled. At whom? Everyone. So a team member she even blew a kiss to, who's coming in with a Starbucks coffee, right? So everybody gets an Edie injection on the way in, great? Smile, eye contact. Oh, by the way, let me just be a jerk for a moment. They go together, okay? If, for instance, if you were ever in a hospital, a medical center, and somebody walked into your room with one or the other, they're a freak. Now think about that. Somebody walks into your room with eye contact but no smile. How about this? They walk in with a smile but no eye contact. You gotta do them together. When I trained 6,500 leaders who then had to train 65,000 employees, who then we tried to inculcate 35,000 contracted employees, and I'm just talking about Walt Disney World in Orlando. We're the same size as San Francisco, or twice the size of New York City. It's 43 square miles. We had to keep things very simple and a little entertaining. But you got to remind people of the basics. Execute on the basics. Smile and eye contact, priceless. Good morning, a smile, authentic, sincere. And you know what? You're going to stop me in the break. But what about if they're not sincere? What if they're not authentic? People can see through that. You know what? People will forgive you for that as long as you're trying. You ever travel to France? I lived there for 2 years. Okay? I also went to school at the University of Geneva, and my girlfriend and I went to Paris. She spoke fluent French, and they still treated her like a foreigner. Okay? So people will fake it till you make it. Okay? This is hard to get all these ships aligned. I mean, think about it. You all have an own definition of Vision 2020. How do we align these ships? You got to be specific. What else did she do? Eye contact, smile, good morning. Whistle. How do you know she was having a good time? She was whistling. Now, I'm not saying you got to go out, run out and learn how to whistle. But you could see it in her tone of voice. Did she stop doing her job tasks? No, but she stopped, dropped, and greeted, is what we called it at the University of Maryland Medical Center. Stop, drop, and greet. I hate when I go to an ICU or a CCU, cardiac care unit, and these gigantic doors open up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And they announce my arrival. And the unit secretary is sitting there doing paperwork, never looking up. Stop your work, drop your work, unless safety's been jeopardized, and just give me a, good morning, hi, can I help you? Right? So you're not going to wake up anybody, but stop, drop, and greet. She got that. If I were to take away her mop, her feather duster, all her infection control stuff, and said, Edie, you're so great just greeting people, just stand here. Do you think she would be effective? Absolutely. Absolutely. Just greeting team members. There's a guy at the University of Chicago, what the Sam Hill's going on here? We put a security officer, I interviewed 17 security officers at the University of Chicago Hospital System, Center for Advanced Medicine. We found Sammy, he said, Sammy, you're it. You're the guy. You're getting written up for escorting patients where they need to go. You're constantly leaving your post for patients' benefit. Oh, yes, sir. What's your point? I'm going to put you outside. I want to put you and your security team outside to greet team members. That's what you're wired for. You're like Edie Boyd. Well, if I'm going to act the part, can I look the part? And I said, well, what are you talking about? Well, can I get one of those fancy outfits from one of those fancy hotels? And can I keep my sidearm? Because this is an inner city hospital. Yeah, you can keep your sidearm. You're still in security. But we're going to retitle your job description. You're the official greeter at the University of Chicago. That was 8 years ago. 7 years in a row, he's been ranked Employee of the Year 7 out of the last 8 years. Why? Because obviously the right fit talent for the right role. Sammy did it anyway. Edie's going to do it in spite of you. Why did I show you Edie's clip in this leadership meeting? Because legendary leaders take someone like that and say, how can we make it 240 housekeepers? And let me just tell you something. When I showed that to 240 housekeepers at Santa Clara, 4 of them took me out in the hall in the break room and they put me up against the wall. I can't whistle. I'm not Edie Boyd. And I said, listen, this is not about you or me trying to be someone we're not. But that's what our members demand. Because the greatest risk is we put someone like that answering the phones at Greg Adams. Thank you for calling Greg Adams' office. This is Julie. How may I help you? And then Greg Adams goes, Adams. When he answers the phone, we don't have connection to the culture. Okay? If I walk in, I have no idea who your receptionist is. I've never called your office. And I have no idea if he answers the phone that way. Can we turn off the cameras? No. The point of the matter is, Edie's actually a risk, isn't she? If we put her at the front door, people come to say, wow. Oh, that was very nice. And then they meet a security officer. Hey, freeze, dirtball. You got to sign in. And then a volunteer's playing rummy with her girlfriend behind the desk. And then you come up and say, excuse me, I'm a little... Thanks for the interruption, right? Then I finally get up to upstairs and so on. We've got to make sure there's consistency. The continuum of care is not necessarily an integrated health system. It's the touch points between team members. And guys, I know I'm talking about a medical center, but I'm talking about your department. Consistency and continuity starts with you. So what do you do with someone like that? First, you've got to build the culture explicitly and say, it's not about Edie. Forget about Edie. You build the specific behaviors and say, this is what we're going to start measuring. Oh, by the way, I caught Edie doing it this morning. Let me write her up. Versus, oh, Edie's always doing that. You know what? And then other housekeepers come to her after the meeting. They pull her down by the coattails and say, you stop it. You're making the rest of us look bad. Don't make them the brown nose or the teacher's pet. Okay? Build the culture specifically, explicitly, and then recognize and hold people accountable and have those crucial conversations that Greg was talking about. So obviously she knows her job task, but she also knows her role in the healing experience. Do your people. I know you're not a medical center here at corporate, but do you know your role in the Kaiser 2020? And why do members actually ask when she called in sick or went on vacation, where's Edie? Why would you call someone's supervisor, a main entrance housekeeper, supervisor, and say, hey, where's that Edie gal out front? They're concerned. Selfishly. But they want their Edie injection. Hey, where's that great gal that was out front? Sammy Hill, the same thing, right? He was on medical leave because he threw his knee out chasing a purse snatcher, right? This guy's unbelievable. You've got people there. And I know I don't have enough time, but I'm going to tell you one of my favorite stories of why I created this company. I read this story about Michelangelo, the famous sculptor, famous painter, famous sculptor. And back in his century, he went down to the quarry to select a rock for the king. The king wanted he was commissioned to do a statue of King David, 17, 20 feet tall. And he went down to the quarry, and he picked a broken piece of marble, a piece of marble that nobody wanted. It was cracked. It was flawed. And people thought he was crazy. And then, months later, he carved this broken piece of rock in this beautiful statue of King David. Everybody knows it today, right? And a reporter walked up to him and said, oh, Mr. Michelangelo, it's amazing that you can turn a broken piece of rock into something so beautiful. And he looked him in the eye and said, what are you talking about? Turn it into something. When I went down to the quarry, I saw the rock. I saw David inside. My job was not to convert this team into something it's not. It's to remove the barriers and create the environment for them to be brilliant. That's your job. You already have great team members. You may have your ways you were brought up, your ways you were trained, and now you've been inculcated into the Kaiser way, but your job is not necessarily to turn them into something they're not, is to remove the barriers for them to release their excellence. Now, the question is, how do we align them so we're not having 7 team members with random acts of kindness where it becomes business as usual? Well, that's why you get paid the big bucks, okay? Ultimately, is she on the care team at Woodland Hills? Absolutely. So the question for you is, do your people know what their Vision 2020 localized behaviors are? Do they know how to localize this? We provide high-quality, affordable health care services. What does that look like, sound like, and feel like when they answer the phone, when they send out an email, when they do a report, when they chair a meeting that you're not at? You got to make that specific. You got to go back to basics. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Great book came out, 20 years ago I read this book or listened to a book on tape when it was actually in cassette form way back then. I got 3 bullets out of it. I like it when I can get anything out of any book. But John C. Maxwell wrote this book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's old, it's crusty, but it's good. And here's what I got out of it that I think is very appropriate for you today. It's this. I'm on page 5 if you're wondering. A leader is the one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And the reason I numbered them, because they're in that order. Today, maybe I'm connecting you or your leaders are going to connect you to the, steps to achieving results. And we're going to ground you into things you might have forgotten. But it's head knowledge. You have no credibility in teaching yet until you actually leave this room and do it yourself. You first got to know the way, but then you got to go the way yourself. So people go, gosh, something's different about him. Geez, he's actually living this whole Vision 2020. He drank the Vision 2020 Kool-Aid, right? She's actually doing it now. I really like going to his meetings now, starting with celebrations, ending with, appreciation. That's really cool, right? But they're in this order, and you have no credibility until you actually do it. Here's a classic example of that I learned a heavy lesson in my life, and I think it's a blessing in disguise. I went into, I just got my Disney PhD. I went through all the corporate training at Disney and got their version of an MBA, and I'm up for assistant general manager of the Polynesian Resort, one of the Disney three top hotels at Disney. And I'm meeting with the general manager that day. I'm going to be the associate general manager. And they have this thing in Orlando called nickel beer. I'm sorry, I was still in college. So I was out a little late the night before. I got to the meeting just 5 minutes before. My tie's not tied. I pulled my Honda Accord to a halt in the parking lot, employee parking lot. I run into the meeting with my jacket over my collar. I run into the restroom, splash some water on my face. I go into the general manager's office. He's not there yet. Awesome. So I pat some paper towels on my forehead, and I sit down and wait for the general manager. General manager walks into the office, full of arms full of garbage. Popcorn boxes, soda cans, cigarette butts, and he throws them on his desk. And he says, "You must be Jake Poore, coming to interview for my second in command." I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He says, "Jake, you've gone through all your training. You've been with the company 5 years. Tell me, what are the 3 reasons, the 3 drivers of our customers here at Walt Disney World, our guests that visit us?" "Well, sir, I know that one. I know they save on average 3 years to come here. They have very high expectations. And the 3 reasons they come back is, in order, sir, the place was clean, the place was friendly, and the place was fun." And that's why we're beating our competition, because we do the first 2 better than anybody, cleanliness and friendliness. That's right, Jake. Appreciate that. Also, what we never jeopardize here at the Walt Disney Company. "Oh, I know that, sir. Our service priorities are safety, courtesy, care, and efficiency. Safety is never jeopardized." That's right. I don't know if it was you, but there was a green Honda Accord that came tearing through the employee parking lot this morning, came to a screeching halt. Young man dressed almost like you with a blue blazer got out of his car, and he walked by 13 cigarette butts, 2 diet sodas, 4 popcorn boxes, an ice cream wrapper, and I'm not even sure what this thing here is. "Jake, you can't teach my employees, you can't motivate my employees, you can't give them the Disney way until you're willing to do it yourself first. I wish you well here in your career at the Walt Disney Company, but I would say this interview is over." First, you got to know the way. Then you got to go the way. Now you have the credibility to show the way. Some of you are very intelligent. Some of you are very good at teaching. But you don't say, "This belongs to me." Okay? And here's a great classic example you can use at your next staff meeting. A leader, your influence as a leader, a lot of times we measure ourselves by our intentions, don't we? Here's a classic example. Everybody put your hands shoulder width apart. I'm not going to ask you to do anything silly. I just want to get this entire room of 350 people to clap in unison one time. Can you do this with me? That's the goal. That's my Vision 2020, right? My Vision 2020. I want to get the entire organization to clap in unison one time. Are you up for the goal? All right, on 3 and only on 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. We were not in sync, people. Give me your IDPs. Give me your IDPs. What was the problem with that? What was the goal of the organization? What was my vision? Clap in unison. What were the instructions? I repeated twice. On 3 and only on? But when did you clap? We measure ourselves by our intentions, but others measure us by our actions. If you have children, you wonder why they're dysfunctional, look in the mirror. I've caught myself using my father's phrase, "Do as I say, not as I." Right. Can't believe these people. Guys, let me give you the best tool ever that works brilliantly in clinical care areas, because the EKG people get. They understand. If it's a flat line, not good. Okay? Left and right ventricle, they've got to go back and forth. So as an EKG, So as an EKG, you've got to balance both sides so we know you're healthy. I know whether your team is healthy or not by you. I can sit with you for a few minutes to understand what your Vision 2020 is, how you lead a team, and understand whether you're balancing both sides of this ventricle effectively. I call it the human business model, or the human business human model. If you're a clinician, I call it the human clinical human model. What am I talking about? There are 2 axes that you've got to balance as a leader. In the old days, you didn't have to. It was command and control. Just do it, because I said so. I got 20 other resumes waiting for your job. You know what? We're growing too much. I can't afford to be training constantly new people. And you know what? There aren't that many resumes anymore. We got to keep these people true blue and dedicated to the Kaiser way. But what is the Kaiser way in our department? That's your job. So you've got to balance both the core business that you provide in your department. What is it you provide? Are you a lab? Are you in accounting? Are you nursing? What do you do? If you're in a medical center, are you admissions? Are you valet parker? Are you the MD, RN, PT, OT, speech, psych, whatever? Everybody's got their own job tasks, clinical or not. We understand what you do because it's usually on your job tasks in your resume. But what's your human emotional connection? I know that sounds warm and fuzzy, but you've got to understand your emotional intelligence of your customers. And most importantly, your number one customer, your staff, your care team members. You've got to balance both, just like an EKG. Or otherwise, if you're all business, and let's just be a nurse for a moment. If you're a patient, how many of you have ever been in an overnight stay in a hospital? Okay? Have you ever had a clinical or non-clinical person come in your room? They don't knock, they don't say hello, and they start poking at you? How do you feel? What is Mayo Angelou? Is that how you say her name? Maya Angelou? I love what she says. I'm probably not going to remember what you said. I'm probably not going to remember what you did, but I'll always remember how you made me feel. How do you feel if somebody's all business? Come into a restaurant. What's your order? Yeah, we have salmon tonight. Right? If they're all business, if you're only a nurse, if you're only a phlebotomist and I'm only an arm with a vein, then I'm all business, and guess what? I'm a flat line. You don't feel very good with people who are all business. Okay? This is how we feel when we deal with people like that. You got a clinician comes in, do you mind if I dictate? And just starts dictating without even waiting for... Or how about this one? Do you mind holding? Click. And now you're on hold without even waiting for a response. That's business. If you're all business, you're never going to achieve long-term results. Oh, you'll get short-term results. But you'll never be successful making the Vision 2020 and the steps to achieving results long-term. Also, the same is true if you're all human. If you're all about bringing in brownies and having great meetings and getting your team together, talking about the weekend. If you ever had a waitress or waiter like that, or you're like, okay, dude, great to know you, but can you give me a food item or a drink? Right? Again, if you're all human, you're boring. I actually came here to get new tires, not to learn about your entire family. Okay? Bad. So you got to balance both the core business that you're providing, the product or service you're providing to others, in a way that keeps their dignity, compassion, and respect in check. What am I talking about? What I'm talking about is what your team members want when you come into work in the morning. Don't be Jake Poore. Okay? When I come into my natural instincts, I'm a battleship. I come into work and everybody says, "Good morning, Jake." I said, "Judy, did you get that fax out on Friday to Kaiser Permanente? Did they send that back?" Good. Oh, yeah, good morning. I enter every relationship on the business because I'm a president of a small company, right? When you start in the organization, when you come to work in the morning, when you bump into people in the hallway or you're walking from your car to the front door, be witness picking up garbage, okay? Say hello to people. Why? Because you'll get a lot more business done if you enter on the human. And that's what I'm talking about. If you're a nurse, a dietitian, a housekeeper, and you're walking into a patient's room, how would you enter the room on the human? What am I talking about? Human. Good morning. Before you actually walk in the room and say good morning, what would you do first? You would knock. It's not there. It's not your room. It's theirs. In the hotel, no housekeeper would just walk in the room. "Oh, sir, you're naked. Good to see you. But I've got to clean your room. I'm on a tight schedule." They don't vacuum the hallway at 4:30 in the morning like you do around the nurse's station, okay? And leave my door open. Okay? We have to enter on the human. We knock. We introduce ourselves. "Housekeeping, may I come in?" Give me a choice. Yes or no? No, not good time. Okay, I'll come back, right? Sometimes you have to come in. It's an intensive care unit. You're the clinician. You're here to save their lives. Just be careful you're not that nurse I met at the University of Chicago Emergency Department who proudly said, first thing was, "We treat everybody exactly the same here." Really? That's a good thing? Everybody's not the same. The other thing is she said, "I'm here to save their butt, not kiss it." "Oh, sure, if I have time later, I'll kiss it." But does she ever have time? No, she's all business. She's all clinical. When you come to work, just like we expect our caregivers to do in a hospital, enter on the human. Eye contact, smile, go together, right? Good morning, how are you? How was your weekend? Stop. I know it's hard. I'm the same way. Please get through your son's graduation. Please get through the whole picnic out at the bay. Please, can we get to work? Just sit there and just pretend you're paying attention. Fake it till you make it. And then go, okay, that was, wow, great. I'm glad you had a good weekend. Did you get that faxed out on Friday? Just wait. Okay, start on the human. Then you can get your work done. Okay, get your meeting, go through your meeting. You should live your priorities off the mission, vision, and values. They should be prioritized. Safety first. Courtesy, what's our patient satisfaction scores? Care, what's our clinical quality and care? Efficiency, okay? Should be in order. Then we end our meeting on the human. Okay? Guys, a classic example of this is answering the telephone. I just gave you I just want to make it ridiculously simple. If I answer the phone, Kaiser Permanente Santa Clara, have I entered on the human? No, I'm all business. How could you enter on the human? Good morning. Thank you for calling. Thank you for choosing Kaiser Permanente Santa Clara. This is Jody. How may I help you? I just need radiology. Now, how could she exit on the human when she's handing off instead of just transferring somebody in this grand abyss we don't know she's connecting us? My pleasure to connect you. Now I'm transferring you. Yeah, have a nice day. Didn't take very long, but what impact did it make? Right? Not hard. Guys, if you now map out your leadership walk, the memos that you write, check your BlackBerry right now. Pull it out. Pull out your BlackBerry, your iPhone, your Crackberry, whatever you call them. Just pull them out. Look at the last sent email you sent this morning on the break or this morning before we got started. The last email you sent. Did you enter on the human? Or did you just say yes? Yeah, the DRG is 14.2, right? When you send an email, enter on the human. How would you enter on the human in an email? Good morning. Hi. Yeah, it's not hard. It may not be in your genes, not in mine. And when I get emails back from my employees now, because I teach this stuff, they write back from my emails, they respond, good morning, Jake. Human. I know. They're managing me up. To answer your question, the answer was 14.2. Business. Thanks for letting me be an employee in your organization. Human. Have a nice day. Human. Really, human. So they're managing me. This is like a new golf swing. There's nothing worse when you get out with the boys or the girls and they know you had a lesson and you take that first swing and it goes, well, it doesn't go anywhere. It's still on the tee. And the next time you go and you hit it and it goes 3 inches. You just got to keep at it. Otherwise, we go back to what? The way it used to be. That's the thing about change. The grip ain't fun. It's uncomfortable. It's not easy. That's the worst enemy. Good is the enemy of great. You're already a very good organization. You're already leading the nation. How are you going to continue to go to the Vision 2020? You've got to make it your personal role. As my dad would say, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. What are you willing to do differently tomorrow? This is a great model. Phlebotomists know that the way to get the tough stick is to first relax them. Distract them. Get them talking about something about their family. Oh, I understand you have 3 grandkids. Tell me about that. Oh, yeah. I understand you collect little horse figurines. Tell me about that. Oh, yeah, I started it years ago, blah, 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 as a little thing. Oh, look at that. All done. What? I'm a tough stick, proudly they say. How did you do that? How do you do that? You relax the patient. Because a lot of times we don't come in with a needle going, I'm going to get you. That vein goes deep, man, because that person's going, oh, good God, the vampires are here. Right? Feel your veins go deep, man. Right? And not everybody's going to be relaxed. Right? But the point is, if you can enter on the human, you're more likely to get the vein the first time. Same is true if you're a non-clinician. If you come to work, enter on the human. When you do one-on-ones, here's a classic example. When somebody comes into your office, get out behind your desk. That's a barrier. Stand up. If you want our receptionists and our volunteers to do this in our medical centers, then you need to do it in your office. Clean your office. Organize your office. We had a phrase at Disney, everything speaks. What does it say about you if you don't dress professionally? If you don't wear your name tag? If you don't greet people warmly. Okay, if you're all business. We can't, we're a schizophrenic organization then if we're saying you guys do it out in the medical centers and we don't do it at corporate. When somebody comes in your office, say good morning. Give them eye contact. Give them a smile. Get away from your BlackBerry and your computer and your phone. Forward your phone if you can. Come out from behind your desk, shake their hand. I know I'm giving you the old grandpa, grandma speech, but we just don't do it anymore. Why? We're too busy. Now, some of us don't have chairs to sit next to, but if you do, if you're doing a one-on-one, don't sit behind your desk with that barrier. Come out from behind your desk if you do have a chair. And get your business done, and when you're leaving, say thanks for coming in. I know you're busy. Appreciate your time. They'll appreciate your time. You need to reciprocate. Okay? Walk the talk. And the last one I'll give you is, I already gave you. It's emails. Okay? Enter on the human, take care of your business, exit on the human. Because ultimately, the captain of the ship sets the tone. You are the captain of your ship. Great book came out a while back. We'll get that in a moment. Here's that photo I took with my iPhone. Here's a captain of the ship, the person who's literally got 237 lives in their hands, loading luggage.
I found him. I think Beulah, wait there. Hi, is this the Kaiser group? Is this the Kaiser group? Look at you,
Yep.
Look away, like I'm going to just go. Hi, how are you, pretty purple lady? It's just really turned into a bad morning for her. Hi, purple pretty lady. Is this the Kaiser group? It is, purple lady. You and I are going to be like this. Okay, let me just tell my Beulah, wait in the gift shop. I'll be right there. Isn't this exciting? Oh, hi. I'll just gonna take a minute. When I heard that the NCAL KP leaders were going to be here, I said, color me there. That's what I said. Oh, hi. How are you? Hi. This is so exciting. Oh, my goodness. And could you hold my hand for just a minute? Hi, John. It's nice to meet you. I'm Betty Lou Sarginski. Everyone calls me Sarge, though. You can call me whatever you want. If you want to. Later, maybe. You can call me whatever you want. But I've been in healthcare forever. But back east, and I was a nurse, in charge nurse supervising. I moved out here to Oakland. Recently got hired, Kaiser Permanente, as a supervisor. Is that exciting? Thank you. I love your cleaning products. I use them all the time. So, I just got hired. I've been through my new manager orientation. I've got my thing plan, my goals plan. What is it? My IOU, my IUD, that's it. I've got my... It's a lot to learn because it's the NCAL and the KP and what's the foundation. And I'm getting it, though. I'm going to figure it out, though. Yeah, take notes for this person who couldn't come. So I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. And I thought, I know I'm real new, but I thought for sure I'd be invited to the big star party today. If I got lost in the mail or something. I didn't get the call. But I'm hoping, hi, how are you? Come this way a little bit more. Oh, my goodness. Are we going to do interpretive dance? What are we going to do? All of a sudden, I'm being beckoned by the little sprite in the orange jacket. I like it. I love it. This is so much fun. Everyone at Kaiser is so welcoming. I love that. And I'm sure, I know I'm new to the system, and I know probably I didn't get invited, but hi, a picture of me. Make sure to get orange Sprite woman, too. Yeah. I'm sure I'll be back next year. Probably I'll be leading the whole thing next year. Probably I'll be doing it. Greg Adams can put his feet up. How about that? Greg, how are you? Oh my goodness. We danced together in Vegas. This is great. Oh, this is so fun. And I'm not surprised he's a big wig here because he was fabulous then. You're fabulous now. And what's fun is knowing, you're talking about STAR, based on my years of leadership, I could probably lay out what that stands for. I'd say, let me think, I bet S stands for stick with what you know. Don't worry. I know it, because why are we always, let's change things. No, we're going to do it the way we've always done it. We're going to get done what we've gotten done. Why? Because that's the way we've always done it. That's what I tell people. And, I'd say for T, you had the word captain up there. Hi, how are you? You look stunned. Yeah, Talk to this pretty lady with the pixie dust. She's nice. Okay. She'll talk it out for you. But you have the word captain up there. For the T in STAR, you know what I'd say? Two captains cannot lead the same ship. No, no, there's one captain. I have a boss, and if I'm supervising people, I'm their boss. And guess what? You're going to do what I tell you to do. Okay, that's how it's going to roll with me, sister. That's why they call me Sarge. I know. Diana's frightened right now. She wishes she was Purple Lady. Yeah, she was back there. But it's true. I mean, you know what? I put out the emails. I put out the memos. I'm not big on meetings. I'm not big on, hey, let's share. You know, come on. You know, I'm going to put it out there. I'm not going to leave my door open so you can come and go. My door's closed for a reason, okay? So I'm working, and I want you to be working, and then we're going to be fine. I'm not going to pat you on the back and attaboy. No. You know, we're all here to do a job. And so I see it. I'm the captain. My husband says, Sarge, you crack the whip. And I'm just kidding. I don't have a husband. But I do. I crack the whip because that's how things get done. Let me see. A would be attention. Now, I love, what was your name? Hi, Tyler. It's nice to meet you. I love how you're just paying attention to me, and I do that when I talk to my boss. I'm just paying attention. But when I'm dealing with my staff, I'm thinking about other things. Okay, I am. It's true. It's true. I'm giving Charlie her direction for the rest of the day, but I'm thinking about the plan. If I'm doing email, I'm on the phone. I mean, when I do one-on-ones, you know, back east, when I did one-on-ones, the phone rings. I'm picking it up, people. Hello. Because what if it's my boss? You know, I've got to be available. So I think attention, you need to be able to do more than one thing. And I bet Orange Sprite Lady, I bet you know that. Yeah. Because she's sitting, enjoying it, yet she had time to get up and kind of entice me forward, and very flexible. You're a flexible thinker. And then R, I think we know, Patricia, what R is for. R is for results at any cost. Get the results. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When I was an ER nurse, you know what I'd say to people? When I was an ER nurse, I would say, guess what? I'm here to save your butt, not kiss it. That's what I'd say. That's what I'd say. It's true,
I know her.
because it's about results. It's about results, people. It's about getting it done. We don't look at what happened yesterday and the praise. No. And we're not going to move forward with a vision. No. I'm going to get it done today. I mean, that's what I'm done for. I get the results. I always have. I mean, I've been in leadership now for years, and no one's ever said anything, so I think it must be fine. I have noticed that in the departments that I lead, there's a high turnover. I've noticed that. But, you know, that might be just because they get filled up and, you know, they go out and take that somewhere else. I don't know. Now, I would love to stay. Look at you. Don't you look fabulous, Mr. Sears catalog? I love this. Goodness. You Kaiser people, you're smart, you're leaders, you're an attractive group. Oh, my goodness, good looking. Now, I would love to stay. I would love to stay, and just don't cry. Don't cry. No. That happens so often. I get near men and they weep openly. I don't know. So, I call it passion. Sometimes it feels like nausea, but it's passion. It's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. Surge. I love that. I love that. So I'm going to go because I've told the folks back at my office that I'm going to pop in and out. You know, as a leader, I've got to be able to come and go. But I need them there working, you know, because that's the thing. It's results, people. Maybe we don't have enough FTEs. Maybe I'm going to have to do mandatory overtime. But we're getting it done. So I'm going to go check on them and see how that's going. But maybe we could all meet later for happy hour, you know, over here in the lounge. Who's with me? Okay, that's hurtful. All right, no, it's hurtful. It is. Okay. Ah, thank you. Thank you so much, John, wasn't it? Oh, John, you're a leader, but still desperate. I love that. You rock. You rock. I adore you, John. So I tell you what, so maybe, how about if we get together later and John and Serge come? And would that make more of you want to come? Look at Serge nodding his head. Bless your heart. Sure. That was a pity nod is what that was. Okay, how about this? How about we meet later? We're going to come. We're going to have happy hour. Serge and John are going to be there. And Greg Adams is picking up the tab for everybody. Woo! All right. Bye, everybody. I'll see you later at happy hour. This is so fun. Oh, my goodness.
See one of yours? She obviously got through the Kaiser filter. I have no idea who that is, but are there still leaders like that within your organization? Wow, I'm a little shocked. She left me about 5 minutes, so let's kick it into high gear, and I think I'll be able to use some of what she said because I want to ask you now a personal question. As a captain of the ship, what ship are you on? Results at any cost, says, what's her name, Sarge? Not Serge, Sarge. Betty Lou Sarginski. As I look at this diagram, Greg, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of meat. I could, as a leader of any department, get easily lost in what my interpretation is. That's why these meetings, this program is vital to the success of this organization. Yearly, at least, keeping you grounded in what that means. How are you now going to think about your leadership approach like Sarge's and make sure it's in line with this vision? So if I take the Vision 2020 and go to the next slide, we've got 230 ships here. Okay? That has to be our guiding compass. That's our destination. It's sort of be a light at the end of the tunnel we should never get to. And I know there are some folks here that say, in 10 years we should get to. But this is our guiding compass. This is our light. So as your ship sails into picture here, I want you to ask yourself, thinking about what Sarge just said, what kind of captain are you? Because I think before we leave this room, we all got to be on the same ship. Agreed? Okay. There are 4 ships that I know of. As I read this book by Michael Abershoff, It's Your Ship, a naval captain who took the worst ship, literally most falling apart ship in the nation, in the Naval Academy, and turned it into the most accurate, most highest morale. It's a great book. And here's what I got. Again, not 3 things this time. I got 4 things. I thought about my career at Disney, and one of the things we measured great effective leaders is on 2 axes. First axis is your ability to get results done. Your achievement. We call it the A square model. Okay? But you have to vet that with your ability to get along with others, other colleagues, your boss, and most importantly, those who report to you or other departments. So, affiliation versus achievement. If you're on this ship in the bottom corner, you're 0 at both. I'm not sure a lot of these people are still with your organization, knowing your organization and how specific you are to leadership accountability. But let's be recognized that they are in this room. I know that because they're called the hardship. Why do I know they're in this room? Because when you walked in the room, the lights started to flicker. You suck the energy out of every meeting you go to. If you look it up in the dictionary, you're called a curmudgeon. You always talk about the good old days when Kaiser was so small and when we used to have all these great things and we no longer have it and we had a lot of FTEs and bigger budgets. And now we're more accountable, and we got to go to meetings like Star Leadership, right? We got to be careful, these people. You know the story of the scorpion and the fox, right? No? Real quick, 10 seconds. Scorpion's getting ready to cross a river. He recognizes, oh my gosh, I can't swim. I got these little pincher guys and a stinger, but I can't swim. He sees the fox getting ready to cross the river. He walks up to the fox, hey, fox, can I get a ride across the river? He goes, hey, get away from me, scorpion. You kill things with that little stinger. He says, fox, I just want to ride across the river. I just want to get on your back and get a ride. If I sting you, we're both going to die. Does that make any sense? Fox, being a fox, says, oh, that makes sense. Climb, puts his tail down. Scorpion climbs on his back halfway across the river. Scorpion stings him. On his last breath, as poison's filling his bloodstream, he looks over his shoulder. What you do that for? Now we're both going to die. Scorpion says, I can't help it. It's just my nature. That's what scorpions do. Hardships are going to be with us. Your job is to make sure the mission, vision, and Vision 2020 become so specific and explicit in your department that these people will get off the ship or get aboard the right ship. They're not the hard ones, quite frankly, no pun intended. These people look like this at every meeting. And there's some of you doing that right now going, isn't he done? Okay, we're going down as an organization if we let them stay in our organization. Because the E.D. Boyds of the world will no longer go above and beyond. The Sammy Hills at the University of Chicago will no longer do that. They'll lower themselves to the least common denominator. Make sure you identify not only what we stand for, but what we won't stand for anymore. In patient care areas, it's not my job. I don't know. You're not my patient. What's your clinic ID number? I'm off the clock now. I'm not on the clock yet. Oh, I don't do bedpans. That's my world. That's where I live. What's your graffiti? I know what your Vision 2020 is. What are the identified rocks that are going to be in the way that Michelangelo has to chisel out of the way to release that brilliance. Only you know your own graffiti. But I'm going to give you one thing that's the most brilliant thing that I've learned in 20 years is don't tell your staff what you think it is. Build the environment, have a flip chart, go into a break room and ask them, guys, here's our vision, here's where we're going. What's keeping us from getting there? And be ready for, well, it's you, boss. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. The hardest thing is to get rid of those folks after you create it. These are the people that are hardest. I'm on this ship. I'm very high in results, but I don't thank people. I'm like Sarge. It's not in my genes. You get paid for this. Why should I have to thank you? Why should I have to have a food party or an on-the-spot recognition program? I have to learn these things and how important they are. We call these people, well, these people are focused on results, right? We call these people the battleship. We love battleship captains because when they're at war, they're very inspiring. They align us. They keep us focused. They're calm. They have battleship scars. But we're not always at war. And sometimes they leave dead bodies in their wake, metaphorically, in the pursuit of healthcare reimbursement. Okay? We got to be careful. So we love these ships. These are the people we love at work. Okay? They always get to know us. They always have our favorite drink waiting for us. They always ask us about our weekend. But they don't get as much done as everybody else because we're kind of talking about the weekend. Okay? As a leadership person, they're always having food parties. They're always doing offsites. And listen, I'm all for that. And a lot of people they lead are willing. They're just not as able as a battleship captain. Now, here's the trick question, HR people. Where do we normally hire? Do we hire battleship captains with lots of experience and education and teach them to be nice? Or do we hire nice people who are willing to do anything with pretty good education and experience and teach them battleship skills? It's hard to change the zebra stripes, or in this case, the scorpion. So ultimately, what our staff want from you, what our care team members want to know and how to get in here, and what our patients and members want from our caregivers. They don't want just somebody who's good at getting clinical excellence or accounting done. They don't want just somebody who's nice. They want somebody who's both. You got to balance the human, business, and human. What your patients want and your team members want is a relationship. How do we get there? Ultimately, to create a community of leaders that Greg and the executive team that was up here and this Vision 2020, ultimately down to you to get everybody on the same ship, it's going to take you to take ownership. And like that golf grip, it's going to be a little uncomfortable. Don't go back to the way it always was. Recognition of this. How to get everybody aboard. I'm going to fly through this. And all these slides will be available if you want any of them, by the way. I'll give them to you either through Judith or you can just give me your card at the end. 20%, anytime you're changing anything, 20% of your folks are ED Boyds. They're wired for this with or without you. They're like, oh, I'm glad the organization's going to Vision 2020 because that's my way. Isn't that convenient? Right? They're willing and they're able. But 30% of these folks will fight anything you do. Why? They can't help it. They're resistors. But they're not who I'm worried about. Who I'm worried about are these people, the watchers. 50% of your folks are going to watch what? Remember the clap exercise. They're going to watch you. Where have you changed your methods? Are you entering on the human? Are you getting business done? And are you exiting on the human? Ultimately, if you go to the resistors and go, come on, this is different, and Betty, come on, we're going to really try this. This is not going to be the Kaiser program or the Disney program or the Studer program. This is going to be our program. If you go to the resistors, what have you just said to the watchers? Well, I want to spend time with Greg Adams. I guess if I resist, the trap is now you're fighting 80% of the organization because they'll resist too. Don't do that. Also, don't celebrate the people who are doing it right because then you single them out as brown noses and teachers' pets. Build the culture specifically in your department. Hopefully it aligns with the Vision 2020, and all of a sudden the resistors will go, gosh, this is not comfortable for me anymore. And the watchers will go, I want to be celebrated by Greg Adams at a meeting. And now, instead of the trap, the goal is you got the 70-30 working with you. When you apply this to your leadership walk of emails, entering the workplace, conducting meetings, ultimately you've got to put that bullseye of Vision 2020 in everything you do. I know it's too big right now. It's a map. But you got to make sure that you at least start the conversation. Your staff already know how to localize it. They know what it looks like and sounds like from you. Ask them. And the last piece, and I gave you some examples of the 4 C's. The 4 C's, the hardwiring Vision 2020, is you got to constantly communicate it. Like if you are running for President of the United States, before you actually do, you got to communicate what it is through email. And I'm not talking just about posters. I call it armbands and brass bands. You know, when that HR money runs out and the armbands go away and the posters go away, how are you continually to communicate it? How are you going to measure this thing? Is this going to be on any tests? Because if it's not measurable, then I'm going to go on to the other stuff I had to do last month, boss. Okay? How are we going to keep score? Most importantly, once we move that needle a little bit, how are we going to celebrate? We don't have enough culture of recognition and celebration in healthcare. Stop for a moment, celebrate. Not that you're going to be on the friendship all day. Okay? And then ultimately at the end, those who are not willing to board, how you can have those one-on-one coaching celebrations. Now, I went over, I apologize, but we've been blaming Greg the whole day, so let me end with this. I started with a quote from a Native American. I'm going to end with a quote from a Native American. I was in a campground in the up in the Adirondack Mountains with my 6 brothers and sisters. We didn't stay in hotels. We stayed in campsites, okay? My father pulls into a campsite at 10 o'clock at night, rolls down the VW bug or van window the old-fashioned way, and somebody sticks her head in the window and says, "Welcome to Camp Hajimata." My dad, being a jokester, says, "Oh, pretty good, Hajifada." Around the bonfire the next night, the Hajimata tribe sent one of their tribal sons, this young man, about 12 years old, to do some folklore story around the campsite. Remember, the one who tells the story rules the world. He told a story about one of his 4 founding chiefs, how he had 2 twin sons, and 2 twin sons one grew up to be the warrior, 2 twin sons. Twin sons who grew up to be the warrior, and the other one grew up to be the medicine man. And he devised a brilliant test, because he was dying, and he didn't know which of the sons to give the leadership controls over to. Which son is worthy to live the story we tell? And he devised a brilliant plan that I want to give you as we leave to break. Okay? He put a bird in his hand. He brought one son into his teepee, and he sent the other one on an errand. And he said, "Son, I'm sorry, I'm dying. It's a matter of minutes, not days. I just have a simple question. Inside my hand is a bird. Is it alive or is it dead?" This son, without hesitation, said, "Dad, that bird dead. That bird is dead, dead, dead as a doornail. Dead." Father opened up his hands. The bird flew away. He said, "Thank you for playing. Go get your brother." Second son came in, same test. "Son, I'm dying. I'm sorry. I have a bird in my hand. Just tell me, is this bird alive or is it dead?" This son took a little bit longer to answer. He looked in his father's eyes, looked at his hands, looked back at his father's eyes. He said, "If I say that bird is dead, you will open your hands and that bird will fly away. If I say that bird is alive, you will crush your hands and kill that bird. I guess the life of that bird is in your hands. It is what you make it." We've covered a lot in the last hour and 20 minutes. We've covered a lot in Vision 2020. You're going to constantly hear more and more about this. These handouts, these materials that this group of fine people put together for this morning conference for you could end up leaving on the table. Could go in the trash can on the way out. But guys, the only way Vision 2020 is going to be live and flying like eagles is this bird is in your hands. If you don't bring it home and lead your team and be specific about what we're talking about and inspect what you expect, then this bird's going to die just along with every other organization who's freaking out about accountable care organizations. It's been my honor and pleasure. God bless you all. Thank you very much.